this screen, we are selecting the source and target versions of Exchange that we intend to migrate during this run. And optionally, we can also select to enable dry run mode, which I'll explain in a second. So you can see here, if we drop down the source, we can see that we can source from anything from 5.5 all the way through Exchange 2010. Today we'll source from 2003. If this is a mixed mode environment, meaning we are moving mailboxes within the same Exchange organization, we would tick this option here. If we are going cross forest, we would leave that unchecked, which is the default, and then we would drop down the target version. Now in this case, we can target anything from 2000 all the way up to Office 365. Today I'm actually going to target 2010. So we're going to go from 2003 to Exchange 2010. Now a unique feature in the Priasoft Migration Suite for Exchange is the ability to do dry run mode. And essentially what that does is it allows us to actually migrate production objects in a fashion where those objects are protected. The user's not affected by the dry run. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to simulate the migration, if you will, into a sandbox so that we can actually see what would happen when we actually run the application in production mode. So you'll notice when I tick this box, you can see down here that dry run mode is enabled. When I take it off, it is in production mode, meaning that we are going to do the migration for real. So when I enable dry run mode, that's really going to give us a couple of key benefits. The first thing it's going to tell us is how long will this migration take. Since we're actually touching all the data that we would touch in production, we are actually going to get real-time metrics back from the application that's going to tell us exactly how long is this batch of users going to take. Number two, if there is any sort of logical corruption in the database itself of a particular user's mailbox, we will find those things out during the dry run, and then we'll have time to remediate those items and or plan for those items before we go into production. The third thing that we can get from dry run is essentially a feeling or an overall metric of how long is this particular batch going to take, whether we have particular features enabled or disabled, i.e. backfill, which I'll talk about in another video. It can actually help us leverage all of those settings into a dry run. Once we execute the dry run, we're going to get back exact metrics of how long it's going to take. Is there any configuration issues in the environment that we need to deal with prior to kicking off production? And or is there any mailboxes in this particular grouping that have challenges that we would want to obviously address? So the key benefit here is the ability to test it before we go. Therefore, when we do go into production, we're not going to be surprised in any way. And then, of course, number two, to get back real metrics, not just guesstimates of how long it'll take, but actually how long will it take. And then we can also determine how many threads or concurrent mailboxes can we run at any one time.